We don't need to give secretly in order to give without thought of reward. But sometimes it helps us. Sometimes it helps us to step back a little bit from the process. What I think is important is that we give to what is important to us. We give to our passion. You see, if we give to something that we're passionate about, I'm passionate about my children, so I give to my children without thought about any other thought. I'm passionate about a lot of different things, those are the things that I like to extend myself with. If we're passionate about homeless issues, then we give to that experience with joy, because we know that we can make a difference in the life of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or a dozen or 100 people. I know one day I was down at where I live, and I take my dog for a walk, and there's a beach there nearby. And so we walk down by there, and often on the beach I'll walk there, be cigarette butts and styrofoam containers and different things like that, some of which float in from the lake, and other people just leave them there. And I found myself, kind of grousing, and I'd go there and I'd look around, and this is messy and dirty, and I didn't like it, and so I'd be complaining about everybody. And one day it occurred to me that I could bring a bag with me, and that I could pick up the stuff. So I put a bag in a glove, and I put it in my pocket, and we get down there, and if there was, trash on the beach, I would take 2, 3, 4 minutes or less, didn't take very long, and pick up those things that were laying around that were cluttering up the beach. And nobody. I was early in the morning. Nobody saw me do it. The point is that there's so many opportunities for us to give without concern of, and I think about the people who would show up at the beach and it'd be clean. Because if I would have shown up at that beach and it was all clean, I would think, oh, thank you. Thank you. Whoever did this, thank you. And so the thank you is already there. It's already out there. It's already done. In the book it says that the core of all giving is compassion and love, and it grows when you become a better giver. And there's plenty of places in which to give. They have some areas in terms of statistics of the world, and it says 1 out of every 4 people in the world is starving. As many as 1.5 billion people in the world do not have enough clean water. At least 20 million people are suffering from the horror of war, imprisonment, and torture. Every few seconds, a child dies from a preventable disease. 1/7 of the world's population is illiterate. And in the U.S., 3 million people are homeless each year. So if you're looking for some place to give, it's not really hard to hook into something. And it doesn't mean that we have to give to all these things, and maybe none of them grabs you, and that's fine. There may be something else that shows up in your life that's more important. But I think that in our life, we may regret a lot of things that we do, but we never regret making a difference in someone else's life. We never regret showing up in that way. In 1974, in my first marriage, before children, my then wife's half-brother, gets kind of complicated sometimes, my then wife's half-brother had just flunked out of, he was 16 years old, and he'd flunked out of the sophomore in high school. And his mother, my wife's stepmother, had recently divorced my wife's father. So they were divorced, and he kind of took off, he was kind of gone. And so Greg had flunked out, and so she was exasperated, and so she calls up my wife and says, what am I going to do with him? And the whole 9 yards, all the stuff that you say. And my wife said, well, why don't you have him come live with us and change schools? And she said, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's do that. And so she sent him to us. And so he moved in with us, and we had room. So he changed schools, and then that fall he enrolled, and every night, almost every night, Greg and I would sit down at the kitchen table, and he would study, and I'd work on some of my stuff. And if he needed some help, then I would help him. And so we did that for a couple hours almost every single night. And then his sister, my wife, would go to parent-teacher stuff and do all that kind of stuff. And here I am, 4 or 5 years old, 25 years old. And so we were engaged in that. And that semester, at the end of the semester, he got his report card, and he had 3 B's and 2 C's. The best grades he had ever gotten in school. And then his mom saw the report card, and she declared him cured of whatever it is whatever affliction that he had. And so she wanted him back. So she took him back and re-enrolled him in the school he was in. We said, no, you just leave him here. At least leave him here through the year. No, she took him back, re-enrolled him, and of course, he flunked out. Well, by that time he was 17, and he enlisted in the Army just to get out of there. He enlisted in the Army, and I really didn't see much of him. I heard that he was doing fine in the Army and all that stuff. And in 1992, Karen and I moved to, 1990 we moved to Seattle. In 1992, I get a phone call. We're living in West Seattle, and it says, "Hi, is this Steve Towles?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, this is Greg Gueston." And I hadn't heard from him, gosh, because that was like 18 years ago, so I hadn't heard from him for a long, long time. So this is Greg Gueston. He said, "I'd like to come over and talk to you." I said, "Okay." So he came over to the house, and he walks in, he sits down, and he said, "I'm here to tell you that you made a difference in my life." You made a difference in my life. And then he described the confidence and all the stuff that shows up, all the intangibles that show up in tangible ways in our experience. And so when we engage in our life experiences, when we are there to make a difference in someone else's life, the universe brings it back to us. It may not have come back through Greg. It may have come in another way, and it was really nice and empowering and incredibly nurturing to have that experience and have that reconnection, and to know that what I did made a difference. That was important and it was helpful, but it really affirmed the whole process of giving and why it is that we're here and what it is that we're trying to accomplish in our experience. We are here to give, and it's not about the results to us. It's not about what it is that we get as a result of it. It's about extending ourselves into the life of others where a need exists and doing what it is that we can do. And, it may not be fun in the moment that you're doing it. You may not experience that sense of joy in that very moment because it might be hard work. It might be difficult helping somebody out or doing something like that. But those are the experiences that live in us and that we come back to in our experience, and we talk about with pride and with joy and with love and with a sense that it has made a difference in our life as a result of the extension that we have made in the life of others. And so because of that, when we enter into that consciousness of giving, we end up finding out not who others are, but we end up finding out who we are and what we are here to do. I want to close with a simple little poem that I wrote. I've called it a poem, but it's something. It's called Giving. It says, "We give to stretch our boundaries, open our heart, focus our mind, let go of our ego, surrender our time, extend our hand, discontinue our agenda, see our oneness, honor our differences, minimize our needs, embrace our joy, honor the divine, live in love, and to be happy." God bless you. Amen.